So this is the team review for the team that me and OE used from around Sheffield to the EU Internats in 2018, because it's a good team and it was fun to build, fun to use. So it's long awaited, because I kind of gave up on team reviews after Sheffield. So if we move on to the first slide, you can see that we're fans of the Double Ducks archetype, and we wish to expand upon it. It was really big, and we were just senior scrubs. Whatever masters used, we used. So from that, we used a simple 252-252 4 spread on our ducks, so that they had really strong starts, both theoretically and quite literally. And then alongside that, we realised a lot of Pokemon used for it were either super strong or super bulky electric types, and two notable figures were T-Man and Aaron Zeng. Aaron used circuitry, which wasn't really fully explored, so we didn't think it would be so good. And because of the time we built these teams, bulky options hadn't really been tested yet, so we left that aside. To realise that Tapu Koko setting up electric terrain was really common and really strong. It also offered another fast defensive option outside of rain and or tailwind. And then, because we were so fast, things that got priority moves or had Prankster to create their moves to make them priority shut us down really easily, and we'd have to be in a situation where we'd have to try and scramble ourselves back. So Tapu Lele came in really handy later in the season. Then, because we had Tapu Lele, we had Steel types, because that gave us a way to get rid of poison types, as well as opposing Steel types from time to time. Because we also had Rain and Tailwind, a lot of Steel types are slow and weak to fire, so we thought, why don't we combine those two to make them faster and stronger. So Kartana, which is already super fast and super strong, fit in really well for me, because it got rid of a fire type weakness, made it from 4 times to 2 times, and Metagross was already so bulky, which is what OE and me used later in the season, because Rain gave its physical and special defense to already really high and extra push, and alongside Tapu Lele, its psychic type moves were boosted even further, and its steel type moves with its high attack, especially the choice band, was super strong. But because we were always using Tailwind, and we used Rain and super fast Pokemon, we always had a problem with opposing Tailwind and Trick Room. So we used Pokemon like Incineroar, Muk, Mimikyu, and Encore and Golduck, because they gave us options to reset or stop Trick Room from going up. For example, Muk got Knockoff and Taunt, which threatened things like Porygon 2 and other bulky Pokemon with Trick Room and an item. We also had Taunt to then taunt when that item was gone. We also had Incineroar with Fake Out and Roar, which helped if you knew they had a Mental Herb, but also wanted a way to make sure it was gone. And of course, like we said, Golduck got Encore, which meant anything could be locked. So we could lock something into Leech Seed or into something we're immune to or not very weak to.
So yeah, here are some origins of the teams where we planned our current VGC teams. So here are our T-Man's Tommy Colony's team, as well as Aaron Zhang's team here. So Tommy used the Tapu Bull variant in London, and on his later international championship teams, he used the Basel. Also, Aaron on the London team used the circuitry, which was mentioned in the last slide, as well as Gyarados. But in a regional where he top 8'd, I believe, he switched the circuitry to Tapu Koko and the Gyarados to Kartana. And that would give him more pressure with the tap, which we spoke already about the cancelling opponent's priority, which was super strong for us.
And then later in the year, I went to Sheffield Regionals, which was my first regionals in a long time. So as I was drafting up ducks, I thought I might as well use it. So what I actually did was message Jamie Boyd to build a team with, and we made a pretty good team. I made some of my own changes to it afterwards, of course. So I had a Golduck with Soak, because it was really fast, and if I could soak things, I could then use Tapu Koko and Kartana to then sweep even further. And then I also had Hydro Pump on my Pelipper, sorry, because that meant I could do a little bit more than Brian did at all times, and much more than Scald did. But I did risk missing and not getting a burn. And I also had Palisand for the main event over Lele for a last minute switch, because it gave me the option to hit opposing Tapu Koko, and I had a 93 to 99% chance to OHKO them, and I of course knocked out if I crit. And it also had the moves Shore Up and Toxic, as well as Stockpile, to make sure I could keep my health and chip away my opponent's health. And if you watched my Sheffield team review, you'd know that against Jambo VGC, I had one Stockpile up. I just spammed Toxic and Shore Up to make sure I won a 2v1 against his Garchomp with a Z move intact and his Snorlax, which is boosted by Curse. I also had Incineroar, as mentioned before, because I needed something to answer Trick Room, and I had Kartana, which is the Assault Vest version, so that I had something to get rid of opposing water types, as well as things that I thought threatened me, i.e. Alolan Marowak was beaten by
for my side of my Birmingham team, I decided to bring the combination of Double Ducks, Tapu Koko, Buzzle, and the Mimilax. For the 4 Pokemon, Golduck, Pelipper, Tapu Koko, Buzzle was hyper offensive. I could deal with many threats in the metagame. One threat which came into my mind after the tournament, which I struggled against, which was actually my only loss in the tournament versus Jana, he had a Ninetales. I had no way of dealing Ninetales because the Mimilax combination would get shut down, for example, his Cell Stealer, and I wouldn't have the Lele Metagross combination to nuke anything, because then I had the Mimilax to counter Trick Room. And one thing I can mention here against Bram de Jong, I played in Birmingham top 4. He had a Murkrow, and the Murkrow gave me a super hard time due to it having Prankster, and that later on slightly turned me towards having the Lele on the team to stop the priority moves. Also supporting Golduck in a situation where you will lead Double Ducks and the opponent leads, for example, a Persian and Tapu Koko. You can switch the Pelipper out to Tapu Lele and then Z move the Tapu Koko for a KO. And Connor can now tell his perspective of the Birmingham side.
Well, going into Birmingham, I barely even knew who OE was, except for maybe a couple of messages saying, "Are you going to Birmingham?" and "Who are you?" So we didn't know that we were both using ducks, because I thought I was the only guy using ducks in seniors right now, especially in Europe. So having no ideas after Sheffield, which of course I top 8, I was thinking, should I use the same team or should I not? So I was testing around and I realised that with the meta changing over the 3 months, it needed to change. So I looked at T-Man's team again and thought, how can I make this better? So I thought, why don't I take out Porygon, because I'm never really setting up Trick Room and I'm never really going against it, and put in another normal type, i.e. in this case, Snorlax. So I could then still counter Trick Room, but not have to set it up myself and wreck my own team. And alongside Muck, I could, like I said in the previous slides, knock off and taunt, and then Snorlax could then set up a Curse, and then I could sweep with Curse, Recycle, and then a couple of returns and high horsepowers. And then, of course, after that, which I will explain because I sadly didn't get to go, be the Worlds variant.
Moving on to the Worlds variant, the 4 first Pokemon was the same, of course, with slightly some notifications which you will be shown in the in this video later on. And then I thought of it that we would need the Tapu Lele and Metagross, mostly the Metagross to deal with, for example, Ninetales, which I was very struggling against after Birmingham, and also the combination of Tapu Lele and Metagross destroying Trick Room. because what I thought, I wouldn't want to basically go with the Trick Room if they had a hard Trick Room team. I wanted to have a very good chance of destroying the Trick Room and not letting them set it up. And for Worlds, I actually got top 16, and it was the right call for me because there were so many P2 Araquanid teams running around, which of course Metagross in the Psychic Terrain with Zen Headbutt would OHKO and deal massive damage. And of course the Tapu Lele to block the priority moves. Yeah. And also at Worlds, I added Brian on my Pelipper for some games, which I could basically Z-move and Brian opposing P2 for a KO. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and then after that, seeing Owe's success and becoming more friends with him, I asked him if I could test with his Worlds team, and he was okay with it. So from then on, I was messing about with it. I'd taken a break from Rain for the Liverpool Regionals, which I didn't do too good at that, but it was my first Masters event. I'm pretty proud of going 4-4. But I wanted to build Rain again, so I asked Owe if I could borrow his team, as I said, and I just adapted it a bit, changed a couple of EVs, added a couple of moves, and you'll see those changes in the slides after. And Owe then thought that those changes are good, and I've never thought someone would really like my changes. And then Owe used those, and then we both made them better even more and even more, until we came to a team which is the exact same as Worlds that we used at London. So if we go on...
Yeah, and one thing for the last slide, also the Worlds team is basically the same team which I won Berman Regionals, but we had Shadow Ball on Tapu Lele instead of Thunderbolt. And on London we swapped the Thunderbolt back to Shadow Ball. Yeah, and on the next slide.
Right. So on to the next slide, we have Golduck. So if I would like to explain.
So here we have my boy, my man, Golduck with the Water MZ, of course, you know, blowing very many targets with a one-shot KO. And also the Ice Beam was an last-minute change for London, because I thought that sometimes Guard Jump would get out of hand and I wouldn't want to use the Z move on that. So I wanted Ice Beam to get a guaranteed KO on Guard Jump and not wasting my Z move, which was a good call. Yeah. And for the EVs, I'll have to say, the EVs were very clutch. For example, at Worlds, the EV spread survives a Zing Zap from Togedemaru. It survives a Nature Power, aka Thunderbolt from Whimsicott, and also it's very bulky. It survives, I presume, yeah, it survives a Specs Finny Moonblast, which was very good, and also against Finny Togedemaru teams, which had Kolma and Finny, it survived 2 Moonblasts, which was super key in situation. And the speed stat is just to outspeed Scarf Kartana, which is adamant.
Yep. And one thing we didn't get to mention is the 44 defense, 100 HP also helps with a wild charge from Arcanine either in or out of the terrain, because I thought that because it used to be a 60-ish% chance that it OHKO'd me, but then I put a couple of in and it made it about a 40-50% chance that I got OHKO'd, maybe even a 2-hit KO. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I found that really good because I could then Scold or Hydro Pump or Hydro Vortex into the Arcanine and get rid of it as quick as possible. And then if we go on to Pelipper, which started off, like we said, as a 2-5-2, 2-5-2 4 spread, but me and Owe thought some things were just hitting us too hard, like maybe a Garchomp Rock Slide or any Rock Slide for that matter. So we added 84 defense, which makes every Rock Slide, unless it's like Choice Band or Super Strong, makes any Rock Slide into a 2-hit KO. And the 164 special attack, it stays, like the Brine chances on things like Porygon or anything else really below 50 HP stays the same, and we left it at max speed. And then the 4 in special defense we just had left over, so we thought it gives us a couple of rolls on non-stab special moves, so let's put it in. And it's just your generic set of Brine, Hurricane, Tailwind, Protect, and there's nothing much changed there.
Yeah, and going to Coco, we have just a normal Life Orb Tapu Koko with Modest Nature and the exception of Thunder instead of Thunderbolt. Since we're running the Rain team, we're running the 252 speed and then 244 special attack, which we probably don't need more. Yeah, we don't need more special attack, so we decided to put 4 EVs in HP defense and special defense to take some hits better. And yeah, there isn't so much things to tell about the Tapu Koko, for example, because it's such a widely used mon, and everybody kind of knows the basics around it.
Yep. And then after that is the Assault Vest Buzzwole, which originally was the same spread as T-Man's, especially for Owe, who ran the exact like EV for EV and move for move, exact same as T-Man's for Birmingham. But at Birmingham, I actually made mine like slightly less, and I put a bit more in attack and a bit less in special defense because I knew I didn't need that much. And I had Hammer Arm to counter opposing Trick Room teams. And what that then allowed me to do was I hit harder as well, and I wasn't as much speed as I had, a little less speed as well. So I'd always underspeed things like Snorlax and all that whilst in Trick Room. So if Owe could use Buzzwole before me, would you like to explain what the moves do?
So we have Leech Life for stab coverage. It's just finishing off Pokemon, for example a Porygon 2 after a Hydro Vortex or a very big nuke. It can just finish the Pokemon off, get the Beast Boost, and then recover some HP back. Poison Jab was German for fairy types and those types to hit it super effectively, deal about 50% damage. Ice Punch is to Oko Garchomp, which we had kind of a problem having the Tapu Lele and Metagross, but we have one thing with Tapu Lele, which I will mention later. And also the spreads are the common Tapu Lele, the Trispex Tapu Lele, which I believe Shona Honami made, had 118 speed, and the original Buzzwole spread had also 118 speed. So me and one of my Finnish friends, when we were heading to a Stockholm MSS, we actually changed the Buzzwole to have a bit less special defense and a bit more HP, and then put four EVs more into attack to increase some rolls, and then also put 1 point to speed, so we never would speed tie with the normal specs Tapu Leles, which was very cool, which also increased the chances of bringing the Buzzwole to the field, because it was usually threatened by the Specs Lele. But now we could comfortably outspeed the Specs Lele with 1 point, which could, in some places, pick up the KO when it has been chipped away by, for example, a Golduck or a Tapu Koko.
Yep, and then moving on to Tapu Lele, we have the same choice specs Tapu Lele as Shoma Honami. We ran move for move, EV for EV.
Yeah.
And the only things we changed was we moved around Thunderbolt and Shadow Ball depending on what tournament we were going to at what time in the meta, i.e. Shadow Ball was for when Owe went to Bremen. He was scared of seeing Wolfie's team because he's still in seniors. So he ran Shadow Ball to help himself against things like Mimikyu or maybe even Gengar or anything that could do good stab, ghost type attacks.
Yeah.
And I remember at London I made the mistake of not putting Thunderbolt back on after, like, just before locking my team, and I was stuck with Shadow Ball for the entire tournament. So
yeah, and
that's
also also one huge thing about the Tapu Lele is when you have the choice specs Tapu Lele, you switch in Koko to get the electric terrain, the Thunderbolt actually picks up an Oko on the common Celesteelas, which was a very, very big thing, because on the team we kind of didn't have any like hidden techs of dealing Celesteela. Of course, we had double ducks, which which then on that point all the Celesteela users knew that we had the potential to KO them, as well as Tapu Koko, which was basically a one-shot KO, so they usually protect in front of it. But they never were scared about Tapu Lele, and never thinking of Tapu Lele actually OHKOing them with Thunderbolt. Also, a couple of EVs which the Shoma Honami spread lives are a Z move from Tectonic Rage from Garchomp, the Z move, and also a Smart Strike from a Jolly Max Attack Kartana, which became super handy in every tournament which me and Connor played in.
Yep. And then, of course, paired up with Lele is going to be Metagross. And Metagross was a choice band Metagross, which OE spent a lot of time on. I have no idea what any of this stuff does, except from maybe like the 4 in special defense and 36 in defense, which comes from my original set at Sheffield. And moving on to OE, as he really eagerly wants to speak.
Yeah, I can do this. So, when the start was, for Metagross, at least, I wanted Metagross to survive an Adamant Flare Blitz from Max Attack Arcanine, so that I wasn't forced to bring in Rain, so I could basically leave my Tapu and Metagross and not to be scared of Arcanine's Flare Blitz, which was super, super good for me. Because then I could just Psychic or Zen Headbutt the Arcanine after, and that would KO due to the recall which Arcanine takes. And for attack, I believe with the Choice Band and that amount of attack, and Choice Banded Hammer Arm for Metagross against P2, plus and Choice Specs Moonblast from Tapu Lele was an OHKO on P2, which came super good for me at Worlds, because P2 was run in every team. For example, they could lead Tapu Fini and P2. Their Tapu Fini would be slower than our Tapu Lele, which means that Misty Terrain goes up, and then I would have to go for the Hammer Arm plus Moonblast combination to take care of the P2, and that was super essential. And for the speed goes, I just wanted to outspeed general stuff. For example, the slowest Specs Finis, also the common Mandibuses, you were able to outspeed with the 1-2-4 speed stat. Also in Tailwind, I believe you were able to outspeed even a Timid / Jolly Pheromosa, which it wasn't meant to be, but it's still kind of. And for Meteor Mash goes, Meteor Mash just usually gets rid of Tapu Lele, and also the Ninetales, which I mentioned in the video earlier when I was talking about my team having a hard time against Ninetales. And then Zen Headbutt is just for nuking stuff in the Psychic Terrain. And yeah, Hammer Arm is usually for cowing P2s. That was its main idea.
Yep.
And
then, of course, moving on to the last slide is different playstyles that you had. So, when playing a team, we messed about like different team tests and all that. See, different leads are different required for different scenarios. For example, you could lead Tapu Lele Metagross for a super strong but slower lead, so you could be bulkier but still deal a lot of damage. And of course, you could do the other side of the spectrum, which was Pelipper Golduck, which was super fast but super strong at the same time. And that was really good because a lot of teams will expect you to lead Pelipper Golduck, so they try and make sure they led against Pelipper Golduck, expecting you to expect them to expect you to lead Pelipper Golduck. So you can also use Tapu Koko, Tapu Lele, which even though you kind of nerf your own terrain, you still get strong attacks off, and you can scare your opponent into maybe a move, get into switch, and then predict that switch, and then do really well. And of course, the biggest rival to Rain has got to be Sun. So if we ran into Sun, we would have Tapu Koko Buzzball, and what you do is you'd usually lead those two, and then you switch Tapu Koko into Pelipper. They can't put you to sleep. You leech life into the Lilligant. It's stab super effective. They either die or go down to a slash, and unless they predict you to switch into Pelipper, nothing goes to sleep. So you most always want to have Double Darks or at least Pelipper in the back. Like I said, you can that means you always can switch in to make sure you get Rain up to counter common things like Arcanine or maybe a Celestial Flamethrower or something like that. And then, because you want to lead with those leads at 4, you always want to get as much damage off as quick as possible. So if you've got Golduck in the back or in the lead, you always want to use the Z move either as soon as it's gone in or just after it's protected. So you're always knowing how much damage you're getting off. And then, because you wanted to be pushing from the start, you always have to play around your opponent's team previews. So no matter what items or sets you think they have or you actually know they have, you've got to lead with one of those main leads to know that you're playing around team preview. And when in the game, if it doesn't go as planned or things do like switch up a bit, try to counter and predict opposing weather terrains by varying your own switching patterns as well as monitoring those of your opponents, and by remembering that some reduces your speed and the damage and speed boost, whilst Hail and Sand does the same but also gives chip damage. And one thing that is always hard to remember, which I always used to forget, is that the speed boost doesn't go until a turn after the weather's reset, but the attack boost does go. And then also terrains such as other than Psychic and Electric terrain, so the only other two terrains, grassy and misty terrain, we're really nerfing Pokemon that relied on our terrains, i.e. you had Koko, Metagross and Lele relying on their terrains, and then they could switch something in. Unless you got a crit or like you knew they weren't Berry, then you were really nerfed from that. So that brings us to the end of the video. So Owie, do you have anything to say?
Thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the team review. I had a blast doing the team the whole season, and I believe I will have a paste bin in the description below of the video. And yeah, thanks for everybody for listening. Just saying that. Connor can finish it off.
Yep, so it's also a goodbye from me. We'll put, as Owie said, we'll put a paste bin in team, maybe a QR team code if Owie gives me permission to, and make sure to subscribe to us on here, follow us on Twitter and Twitch, because we actually do have those, funny enough, especially Owie, who's got more famous than me. And
yeah,
other than that, that's a goodbye. Peace.